It's nice to see so many people here this morning. Thank you for joining us. Glad everybody made it here safely. I'd like to recognize and welcome the mayor from Kuna, Mayor Steer. Glad you could join us. And Commissioner Baker is joining us today on speaker. The first order of business today is to adopt the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second on our agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on those items unless a commissioner or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will then be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. Do I hear a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we are in the on our regular agenda items. All regular agenda items are commissioner action items unless noted. Our first item today is the Whisper Meadows Subdivision Preliminary Plat, request for modification of a previous decision by the City of Kuna. Christy Little will give us the staff report. Welcome, Christy. Thank you.
Thank you, President May. Commissioners, for the record, Christy Little, Planning Review Supervisor. This is a decision briefing for the Whisper Meadows subdivision. On February 14th of this year, the City of Kuna submitted a letter to ACHD requesting that the matter of the extension of 2 stub streets into Whisper Meadows subdivision be revisited and that neither stub street be extended with the Whisper Meadows preliminary plat. This matter is before the Commission to consider the city's request regarding stub streets only. The 73-acre site is located on the west side of Linder Road between Lake Hazel Road and Columbia Road. Main access to the site will be off of Linder Road and also off of new collectors that will be built as development occurs. The preliminary plat is located directly north of Chisholm Valley subdivision, and there are 2 local streets that were constructed as stub streets to this site when Chisholm Valley was platted. When ACHD approved the Chisholm Valley preliminary plat in 1994, it was required that the design of the cul-de-sac streets provide for street extension in the future. There are 310 single-family lots proposed. As I mentioned, main access is taken off of Linder Road. The applicant is constructing an east-west collector shown in red abutting the north property line as required with the master street map, and is dedicating right-of-way and road trusting for a north-south collector along the west property line that will be constructed when the parcel to the west develops. The orange arrows on the map indicate local street connections to the arterial and the collector network. The existing stub streets are circled in green at the south property line. With the preliminary plat application that ACHD acted on in September of 2018, the applicant requested a waiver of policy regarding an extension of one of the 2 stub streets out of Chisholm Valley. ACHD's continuation of streets policy requires that stub streets be extended when adjacent parcels are developed. At that time, staff recommended approval of the applicant's proposal to not extend one of the stub streets into the site, and that would be McClintock on the east, and that was proposed as a pedestrian-only connection. But staff did recommend the extension of the western stub street, Chisholm, with the plat. Staff's recommendation was due to the proximity of those 2 stub streets and that 2 vehicular connections was not necessary. After discussion and testimony, the Commission denied the waiver and required that both stub streets be extended into the site per district policy. The Commission discussion focused on connectivity between subdivisions and emergency access, particularly because there was only one way in and out of the Chisholm Valley subdivision. The motion was to approve the Whisper Meadows subdivision, but deny the waiver of policy. And with that motion, the Commission included a provision that the City of Kuna could request to have the requirement removed if they did not concur with ACHD's decision on the stub streets. So as noted in the staff memo, staff has presented some alternatives. One would be to uphold the decision that the commission made in September of 2018 and require that both stub streets be extended per district policy. Second would be to grant a waiver of policy and require Chisholm Place to be extended as a vehicular connection and McClintock as a pedestrian connection only. Or the third would be to grant a waiver of policy as requested by the city of Kuna and not to require the extension of either stub street. As a reminder, the commission needs to make findings if modifications or waivers are presented, and staff will stand for questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Oh, thank you.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
The question has to do with the other access points for the new development. It showed yes there. The one on the south, that is contingent upon the development of that corner lot sometime in the future, correct?
President May, Commissioner Goldthorpe, that's correct. That's a the future development.
The access point to the east on Linder Road, do you know where on the hill going north on Linder Road that access point is?
President May, Commissioner Hanson, I can't picture that right at this moment.
Me either, that's why I asked. But what my concern, if there is a concern, was for the fact that there's pretty high speed traffic there at that point right now. And if it's halfway up that hill, the folks going south might create a little bit of a safety issue unless we can do something to slow them down on Linder.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, we did evaluate site distance with the original application, and we wouldn't have approved that location if we hadn't examined that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to clarify the two streets to the south are, when they were first, these large lots, this little large lot subdivision was developed, stubbed right up to the property line with signs that indicated they would be extended in the future. So there's been notice.
Madam President, Commissioner Hanson, ACHD didn't start requiring the signage until the 2000s for stub streets, so these stub streets were not signed with to be extended in the future.
But they were, they did go all the way to the end of the lot. Is that
That's
correct?
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Baker?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is the applicant here to testify? Mayor Steer, you're here to speak for the applicant, the city of Kuna? Yeah. Please come forward. Go ahead and state your name and address for our records.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. My name is Joe Steer. I'm the mayor at Kuna, 524 Walnut Avenue, Kuna, Idaho. First of all, I'd like to thank you for revisiting this for us. This is kind of new territory for us. As I'm sure you know, that the council and mayor don't get to see these projects until way late into the process. So this is the first time that we've actually ever, that I know of anyway, come back to the commission to ask for reconsideration on this and asking for a waiver. One of the most concerning things for the council in this particular development is the lack of flow, for lack of a better term. We have very large lot properties that move right into a fairly densely populated subdivision. It didn't feel right. It doesn't look right. We did have a lot of concerns from the citizens that live in the adjoining subdivision, and I guess what we would prefer happen is that those two entrances there, rather than being just open to public, would be considered for emergency access only. I have, and then actually I have one of my planning staff here that could probably better articulate what we're thinking there. And so if you wouldn't mind if I have Troy Bunin step up and finish my talk.
Absolutely, thank you. You could step forward, please, and state your name and address for our record.
For the record, Troy Bakunin, Planner 3, Kuna Planning and Zoning Department, Commissioner May, Commissioners. City of Kuna really does appreciate the opportunity to present this request to you. Mayor Steer did a fine job explaining some of the concerns of the neighborhood that is directly south of this proposed development. While the council does recognize that there is an emergency services and a daily services concern for safety for the subdivision to the south overall, really what precipitated a lot of this is the amount of turnout from the citizens from Chisholm Valley that showed up to the public hearings for Planning and Zoning Commission and also for the City Council. And there was an overwhelming response for safety on a daily basis rather than an overall emergency services aspect. What they're concerned with is the funneling of traffic through their subdivision, and City Council was sympathetic to their concerns, and they saw that there was probably a need to reconsider or at least revisit the consideration for requiring both and limiting it to just a emergency access only for the Kuna Fire District or for any of the other emergency services that are required. Some of the arguments that City Council did here is this subdivision's been in place for 20 plus years, and the cul-de-sacs at the end of McClintock and also at Chisholm Way have sufficed the needs so far. And if there is a need in the future, that there would be an approved access point for emergency services in the event that there was a need for such an access requirement. Other than that, the request is simple: make both of those connection points pedestrian friendly and access for emergency services only, with the conditions that are outlined in the request from Mayor Steer and the council. Other than that,
Stand for
I'd be
questions.
happy to stand for questions and answer anything. I've been intimately involved with this project from the very beginning, so.
Okay, before we move to questions, if I could ask staff to please put up the map that shows exactly the location. Perfect, thank you very much.
If the commission would like, I also have some color 11 by 17s of the phasing plan and also of the pre-plat, if you would like.
Would you like to see those? You could hand them to Stacy, and Stacy can pass them out to us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Commissioner Goldthorpe?
My question, and it's just a matter of a concern, we show a number of different access points in the site plan. My concern is that the development will have a sufficient number of lots completed and sold so as, and this before any other development is done surrounding this development, to the point where the other access points are not developed yet. My question to you is, when do you actually see development occurring such that those other access points can be developed and give us sufficient comfort that there's more than one way in and out of the development?
That's a fair question, Commissioner Goldthorpe. Commissioner May, if I might. if you look on the plans that were just handed out to you, the two connection points to Chisholm Valley from Whisper Meadows subdivision are proposed to be in phase 6. So the thought by the developer is to avoid impact to the existing neighborhood as long as possible, thereby hoping, at least by the testimony that was given to City Council by the representative from Kittle Associates who performed the TIS on this project, hopefully by the 6th phase, the residents within this new subdivision, Whisper Meadows, will have established patterns of driving habits. Thereby they will, first phase includes a Linder Road access, and then Butterfly, which is to the north of the homes, that would be improved relatively soon after that. And so hopefully by the time the connection points actually are required, the driving habits would be established by the people, and therefore there wouldn't be any need for people, or very few people would actually use those.
Go ahead, Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Are you aware of any development that might actually activate that north access point in the near future?
Are you talking about from Butterfly Street?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Forgot my glasses. So
No, that's okay. Actually, right now, there are no applications and there are no ongoing discussions for properties to the north of this or to the west. There is, however, development to the east, directly across from this site to the east, across Linder Road. Kuna School District number 3 is in the end, at the end of their construction document preparation period, and they're going to begin development of the new CTE high school. Their plans are to open in September of 2020. But other than that, there's nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hanson?
I just have a quick question. If we were to move to shift the expectation with respect to these two streets serving, what, about a dozen, I don't know how many properties there are, and make them dead ends, they would still remain public streets, but perhaps did the city consider shifting that, since it would only benefit those property owners, those public streets, since they wouldn't be connected, to shifting to be private roads, put in a request to have them private, since they would not be connected to other neighborhoods. Was there any discussion over that, since the benefit of these roads, these public roads, would only be to the...
Are you talking, I'm sorry,
Was there
Commissioner
been
Hanson?
any discussion, if you were to get your request to cut off and not make them connect to adjacent developments, as our policy directs us, has there been discussion of, in exchange for making them dead-end streets or leaving them dead-end streets, that they would be private?
So, Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner May, there was no discussion about making them private streets or private stubs or anything like that. In the city of Kuna, we actually discourage private streets, except in limited circumstances. And when this application came forward, there was no request for private streets, and thus no discussion.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. Commissioner Baker, no questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have a few individuals who have signed up to testify. Shannon Lucky, Lucky, I hope. Lucky, okay. If you could state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, thank you. I'm Shannon Lucky, 7714 South McClintock. I live in Chisholm Valley. Thank you for hearing my testimony today, and I would also like to thank Mayor Steer and staff for having this revisited today. We are in support of Alternative 3, we feel that there is a safety concern having the connection of Whisper Meadows with Chisholm Valley. We are rural streets in this subdivision, and the streets are lined with deep borrow pits that are used for drainage of water, and those borrow pits are filled with river rock. And there are no sidewalks or no safety barriers for pedestrians, and there's no common area for our kids to ride bikes, scooters, that type of thing. So for them to ride bikes back, and go to the bus stop, that type of thing, they're on the streets. And so to have the impact of the traffic from 310 homes, we feel is a great safety concern. In regards to Linder Road and the high school that's being built there, directly across from Whisper Meadows, across Linder, is another 677 home subdivision. Their exits and entrances are also on Linder Road. So Linder Road, within a mile, will have these two subdivisions plus the high school. So it's my concern that the folks from Whisper Meadows will use McClintock and Chisholm Valley as an exit going south towards Kuna. That's where all the elementary schools are, the daycares, that type of thing. Plus, it would be an easy bypass for folks traveling south on Linder Road to miss the school zone and the traffic there and cut through our neighborhood, and then possibly, head west to go up 10 Mile to hit the freeway. It's just a big concern. Also, Chisholm Way, from where Whisper Meadows will connect to Columbia, is a straight shot. And so that would just make me believe that there would be an increase of speed and safety concerns there. We've had one entrance into our subdivision for over 20 years. I believe the cul-de-sacs or the stub streets that are there now are wide enough to allow emergency vehicles for a turnaround, because I think that is one of the concerns. We've had emergency vehicles in our subdivision, and I can assure you they didn't get stuck. They're not still there. So they were able to exit, as they needed to. McClintock doesn't actually connect to Columbia. It connects into Chisholm. So we have 4 homes there that will feel the full impact of the cars that will be exiting south from Whisper Meadows and using Chisholm Valley. So I think the traffic study is light on their count. I think there's gonna be more of an impact than what is indicated there. I think there's gonna be cut-through traffic from people on Linder Road that maybe don't even live in Whisper Meadows. So it's just a big safety concern.
Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have questions for Ms. Lucky?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Mayor Steer, did you have any additional comments to make? Since you're down here, if you'd like to readdress something.
Again, for the record, Mayor Steer, 524 Walnut, Kuna. Again, I just want to thank you, and I do appreciate the relationship that we have with ACHD. We're great partners, and I can't thank you enough for all the stuff that you do for us. I would also like to point out, I don't know if it was mentioned before, but this Chisholm Valley is actually a county subdivision. It's really not even in the city, but we don't really look at things like that so much. We figure they're all members of the Kuna community, so we want to take care of everyone. I think that the concerns that they have are real, and like I said, I know that as well as you and us as the city, we always want as much connectivity as possible. I think that's very important. However, in this case, like I said, it just didn't feel right to myself and to the council, and that's why we're here today. So we would appreciate your consideration in looking at least option 3 there to make those emergency accesses. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mayor. The next individual to have signed up to testify, Josh, I'm going to venture get Riccardi? Ricciardi. Buongiorno.
Josh Riccardi, 7752 South McClintock, Chisholm Valley Subdivision. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Mayor. Good job. Thanks, Tim, working out with us a lot. It's been pretty tough. I'm a father. There's a lot of kids in our subdivision, and there's no real sidewalks, okay? Kids operate on the street. We teach them to stay far left or far right. And just with our 30 houses in our subdivision, it freaks me out. It freaks a lot of the parents out with the kids, okay? So there is no due right away for children, pedestrians. Yeah, even jog in the morning at my fair age I am right now, and you know, you gotta keep an eye open. So with this Whispering Meadows connecting to us, 310 homes, you know, roughly 620 vehicles, and like what Shannon said, it's all this elementary schools and everything south. Okay, they will be accessing that, you know, main thoroughfare at Chisholm. And on McClintock, same thing, it connects to Chisholm before it hits Columbia. And that's a tight corner right there. We've already had multiple almost incidents with new people moving into our subdivision and coming a little hot around the corner. And we've already had issues with that where we had the president of the Chisholm Valley, so I had to go talk to people, hey, just be aware, it's kind of a blind corner. Just, we got kids out, sometimes a dog gets out, runs on the street. That's our biggest concern, speaking for our subdivision. It is a rural subdivision, okay? It's been there 20 years. And we just want to keep sure it's undue hardship on us, with this community moving in. We understand the growth's happening, okay? We're not against the growth. I'm against, our subdivision feeling that hard impact on that and safety feature. It's everybody's, reactive on situations. I want us to be proactive. Sub-item 3 for the emergency service vehicles, perfect. I even like the better idea, privatize a road. We looked at that venture, just didn't know how, because we all have jobs and, we're not in county business, and we got legal representation to help us with some of the rules, but we just never ventured. I mean, we would love to privatize that road and have the HOA take care of it. We would love that. I understand the stub streets, once it goes cul-de-sac, the county doesn't want to mess with it anymore. And especially for us, only 30 homes there, we'll take care of it. And I believe all our community members in Chisholm Valley, that'll be one thing they'll totally agree on. A lot of people moved into this subdivision because of the rural environment. We like where we're at. We like everybody has an acre and a half. Kids ride their horses, on the street, take them to the neighbor's house, go in their arenas. So there's a lot of activity on the street, not just with vehicles. It's, we don't have sidewalks, so it's hard. I think that's about it. It's just, this has been a long, drawn out process, and we just want to make sure, for our subdivision that, safety is a big thing. I don't want a kid to get hit, rolling through there. I don't want a dog to get hit. There's no cases for that. That doesn't mean so with the sub streets, just keep them as they are. Emergency access, totally agree with that. Privatizing, I'll be all about that too. So, been there 7 years, so seen a lot coming in and out, a lot of different neighbors. Shannon's one of the originals, right? 20 been there, so she's seen a lot of growth in there too. So, any questions?
I do.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
As you probably figured out, we're kind of concerned at what happens as Whispering Meadows, as the development progresses, and that down the road a number of years, that the development is pretty much built out and there's nothing around it to provide for any of those other access points to be utilized. What would your feeling be if there was, if the waiver was couched to the future development so that it may or may not ever be opened up depending on,
Depending on traffic flow and everything and development. Yeah, because we can't see in the future, okay? I don't know, so we're just shooting from the hip and you go, well, we have a lot of growth going on in the valley. That's how we all see it. I love to just keep it how it is and, sideline it, and that's just something else we can venture forward, in the future. My personal take, and especially the community, we just don't want to connect due to the traffic, because it's going to happen. And we've even had multiple neighbors in our community have been the ones that cut through other subdivisions that have developed by Silver Trail and everything. And they're like, oh yeah, I've been doing that. And I was like, okay, well, are there established sidewalks? Well, yeah, the kids are on there. I was like, see, and we don't. She's like, yeah, I can see where that's a big problem. I mean, everybody's blanket to it, everybody does it. I totally understand. Hey, I want to cut through the subdivision because I can hop on Columbia a little bit quicker. It's going to happen. Yeah, it's just the traffic. Emergency service access, like we've had fire trucks in there, no problem, around those, the roundabouts there, or the cul-de-sac. It's not been an issue. I pull a 35-foot trailer, I can turn it around right there. It's a big cul-de-sac there. The emergency service access there, that'd be wonderful, that'd be great. Just a through fare, that'd be terrible. It would. Just a lot of danger with the kids and, just pedestrians on the street. Kids, you can teach them all day long, stay left, stay right. We know how it is. 6-year-old kids, they say, yeah, Dad, awesome, thumbs up, and they're doing something completely opposite of what you just told them. So that's what I worry about.
Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Baker?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Would the city like to readdress anything? No? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to step forward and address this matter?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tim Eck. I live at 6152 West Half Moon Lane in Eagle. I am the applicant on the proposed subdivision. We did a lot of work with the residents in Chisholm Valley, trying to cooperate with them, the large lots that are contiguous to them, and making every effort possible to minimize or delete the connections to them. I do believe there are streets currently meet by our safety standards. There are 30, I think it's a 30-lot subdivision, which is the current policy for a single point of ingress and egress. We have no opposition to what the city's requesting. We started off with that request in the first place for a single point of access. If the city prefers 0, we're fine with their request. I just wanted the commission to know that we have no opposition to what they're asking for.
Okay, thank you for stepping forward.
Yeah, and I can stand for any questions. As we phase the project, we very specifically we'll have 3 points of ingress and egress to the new Butterfly mid-mile collector or to Linder before we have connections to Chisholm. And the other 2 stub streets will be stub streets for future development, which, as Troy mentioned, there's nothing submitted or applied for, but we'll have 3 active connections long before anything else occurs. So the traffic should be fairly well established. Patterns going to the north are much higher than to the south, but we're in full support of the city's request and of course the neighbors' request.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Oh, Mr. Case, welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Dave Case, I live out at 7866 McClintock Place, out in the area in question. I originally wasn't going to testify on this, and throughout this whole process, I have remained neutral on it, mainly because of the position I had with the county when this first came in. So the one thing that has been brought up that I think needs to be emphasized is the safety issues. This was the last of the old farm home subdivisions that was created in the county years and years ago. I've lived out there since 1999 when it first came in. So as described earlier by Shannon, the sides of the roads are just big borrow pits where the water runoff comes from the roads. There are no sidewalks, there are no curbs, gutters. It's very dangerous for the kids out there the kids or any pedestrians who happen to be walking up and down the road if those stub streets were to go through. I can tell you, just as a homeowner out there, I would not be in favor of privatizing that. There's 30 individuals, 30 families live out there. The expense on those families would be astronomical to do that, I think. So I don't have a recommendation one way or another. I just wanted to testify regarding the safety issues that are there currently if those go through. If Commissioner Goldthorpe, you mentioned earlier that the speed limit going down Linder Road, I think it's 50 miles an hour. Well, that's the speed limit going down Columbia Road also. So you've got some entry access safety issues, in my opinion, that are there also with the volume of traffic entering out on the Columbia Road. So happy to stand for any questions.
Just one
Commissioner
question.
Hanson?
Quite a number of neighborhoods, old neighborhoods, that the sidewalks weren't built. They are putting in requests and going to the city and getting on the list for sidewalks for pedestrian safety. Has your neighborhood put together a request for pedestrian safety to ensure
Well,
we have sidewalks?
to my knowledge, we haven't. I've been to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're called community projects, so that's the category.
To my knowledge, we haven't. I did mention that at one of the neighborhood association meetings I attended regarding the Safe Routes to School grants, the possibility of doing that. And I think depending on what happens here will probably depend on the direction that they go from there. I believe they're aware of the option.
No further questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Case. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment? Seeing none.
Madam President,
Go right ahead, Christy.
Madam President, Commissioners, I just wanted to clarify, there might be a little bit of confusion on my part phasing. But with regards to what is needed to serve the site from a vehicular standpoint, if the stub streets were not connected to this plat, all of the streets within this subdivision, including the collector street that the applicant will be constructing, it's adequate to serve the vehicle trips from the site. So the reason for the stub street connection was for the connectivity and those policies, but it's not, the connection isn't needed to serve the site from a vehicular standpoint or capacity or roadway volumes.
Thank you for that clarification. While you're standing there, does anyone have any questions for staff?
No, but I do have a question for Steve, a legal question on the standard review. And Madam President and Steve, first, this came to us back in September. I just wanted to clarify, it came to us from a staff recommendation. We were sitting de novo, right? It's not an appellate thing where the burden is on whoever's asking for the change from the staff recommendation. We were a fact finder, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The burden of proof.
This is, if I may, Commissioner Hanson, again, Steve Price, ACHD General Counsel. This is a unique procedure. Back in September 26th, the commission made a decision. If there would have been any reconsideration, it would have been shortly thereafter the done. But there is a procedure that they are following. It's a motion to modify our prior decision, and we do allow it in limited circumstances. And that is the motion before you today is a motion to modify the original decision. And you're still sitting in a quasi-judicial fact-finding role.
Right. Very good. Thanks. So the issue is regarding our policy We've heard evidence and given actually the language of our policy, 7207.2.4 on the continuation of streets. Our policy's been in effect for quite a number of years and lists the requirements. When someone is requesting that a policy not apply, is the burden, where does the burden of proof lie? And I'm trying to figure out as we weigh evidence, we're a fact finder, where does evidence?
In that instance, originally it was on the developer, and in our other section on waiver, it's clear that the person applying for the waiver is the one that has the burden of proof, if you will, to try and meet that standard. And I believe today the movement is the city, and they would be in that role of asking for that waiver, and that they would have that burden.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Legal questions.
Any other questions of staff before we move forward? Could staff put up the alternatives that we are considering today so that the commission has them before them? Thank you very much. You have this item before you. Is there a motion?
Before I make my motion, I would like to thank the city of Kuna for doing this. As you may or may not be aware, we are asked to make decisions all the time without the kind of information from land use planners that I would appreciate anyway. And as the mayor said, this was the first time that this had happened, and you were a little bit at a loss as to how to handle it. This is how to handle it. Thank you. I would probably appreciate more input when we're considering plats from the land use planners than we normally get. But I am grateful that you understood the ramifications of the way the motion was made back in September so that you could in fact come and do this. Because of that, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the request for modification of previous decision.
Which one?
Option number 3.
Is there a second?
Madam President?
Commissioner Baker?
Yeah, is there a second to this motion?
No, we have not received a second.
Then I'm going to make a motion that I'm just trying to find the staff report, that we deny the request and that the original decision stands. And if I get a second, I'd just like to make a few comments.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a
Okay,
motion.
thank you.
We have a second by Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Baker?
Okay, so, yes, thank you, Madam President. I sympathize greatly with the people who live in the subdivision to the south. I sympathize with the city for the testimony that they received about this. However, this is not just about emergency access. This is also about connectivity, and that is one thing that we have striven mightily to accomplish over the past number of years. And in fact, even the city recognizes that connectivity is extremely important. This always happens. We always have a plat put in, approved, built in a green field that has substreets. And then the green field next to it is developed, and the substreets, nobody wants to have them put through. But that's the essence of connectivity, is to create the substreets and then connect them at the proper time. And in fact, this subdivision here has, I believe, some substreets that will be connected in the future. And I can pretty much guarantee that when that green field develops, the people who don't live there now but will live there will be the ones complaining about the substreets coming in. Kuna's growing like weeds, Houses are going up on the green fields, and this is just going to continue to happen over and over again. But we have a policy of connectivity. We've seen it in other cities, the necessity for connectivity. To say this time we're not going to do it just obviates all the policies that we have in place. And it will, in fact, remove the connectivity and be a major problem in the future. So that's why I made the motion. Like I said, I sympathize with those living in the current neighborhood. I sympathize with the city for having to go through that testimony. But the connectivity is too important to just do on a case-by-case basis. There needs to be a really good reason not to have it, and that doesn't exist here. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baker. Any further discussion?
I would just echo Commissioner Baker's comments. I think the policy, which took a long time to develop, prioritizes connectivity, and also I wanted to clarify the burden of proof is on the applicant and now on the city in order to provide a waiver of that. I think the city's provided some interesting information, but it does have the burden, and I don't think there's sufficient information, sufficient evidence to suggest that we should waive the policy of connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Goldthorpe, any further comment?
No.
Okay. I too would echo Commissioner Baker's comments. I do appreciate the city being here and the residents. But I do, like I say, I do agree with the motion that's been presented. And that's how I will be casting my vote today. So we do have the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for being here. We do have another item on our agenda, public communications, and I'd like to call Director Wong up. He'd like to make some comments.
Madam President, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. This morning, Governor Little declared February 19th to the 22nd as the state's Engineers Week. I would like to commend to you the tremendous service your engineers do on a daily basis here at the Ada County Highway District. All of them, just not 82%, and such, and it's a pleasure to have them on board. So on behalf of that, I would ask that you formally recognize also that this week is Engineers Week, and I would encourage you all to take one for lunch, and I'm sure they'd be very appreciative of that. But we do have a great team, and they do a great job.
Director Wong, do we anticipate a Lawyers Week proclamation in the near future?
Sir, I haven't seen a pig fly. I'm sure that can be arranged. Okay.
Thank you very much, Director Wong, and thank you very much to our staff. You do a tremendous job, and we're very proud to be part of the team.
We love our engineers.
Yes, we do. Any further discussion or items? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Aye. Second.
Discussion? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much to everyone who came here today. We appreciate it.